Welcome back, my friends, to the Predictive Playbook. It is Tuesday, July 27, 2021, a little bit after 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I have Adam Trigger on the show from Top Flight Sports and also Sportsmemo.com. He is a colleague of mine on Sportsmemo.com, and he is a regular guest on these shows, appearing every Tuesday live at 11 a.m. Welcome to the show, Adam. How are things going for you?
Thanks for having me, John. Things are going great.
You bet.
I got the Royals home as a 5-unit winner last night, so that was awesome. I've got a nice little MLB run going right now. And, you know, I kind of missed the NBA playoffs because I was on fire toward the end of the NBA playoffs. It's like sad that it's done. But we got NFL
I'm with you on that.
NFL preseason around the corner. For me, the KBO will be back in a couple weeks, and I've kind of missed that. Like they're on, so they take a break for the Olympics. So we've been without that, but that's been a moneymaker for me all year. But yeah, things are going good. I always love August. I love betting preseason NFL. I think it's one of the best times of the whole football calendar to make money in football. There's a lot of soft sort of lines to take advantage of. So that's coming up. I'm sad we only get 3 weeks this year, but you know what? We got 0 weeks last year. So it's going to be nice to have it back.
Very true. I think with another positive, and I'm pretty humble with when I'm running red hot. And,
you're running red hot right now. I'll help you out.
Yeah, it's been pretty good here. Seeing the board pretty well, and that's the point of mentioning is that you're seeing the board well is in addition to me, and the two of us together here, I think we'll come up with a pretty good free pick for Major League Baseball, and then we're going to tee up some of the NFC East teams. And I've made a bet with myself, Adam. I am not going to call it the NFC least ever again, and I'm taking the positive attitude that these guys are doing the best they can. They're playing hard, and we shouldn't be so critical of the lack of effort that we may see with our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. Do you think it's a safe assumption to say that it will be better than last year? I don't think it would be that difficult to be better than last year.
Well, I'm gonna fail then if it's worse.
Yeah.
I'll probably make it to week 3 and lose my mind. But I think it's going to be a very interesting division, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's just tear down this baseball stuff here. I wanted to just kind of start us out here with after the All-Star break records and which teams are making the most money. And you might not be surprised to know this, but the best team is the Baltimore Orioles. They are 6-2, 75% winners of the first 8 games. Now, of course, we're not expecting this to continue for the rest of the season, obviously, but this is a pretty normal situation that the bad teams after the All-Star break, for whatever reason, tend to get much better than what people think. And the Orioles are averaging a 142 betting line. They've made a $100 better, $581 just betting on those 8 games. Royals 6-2 also have made $427. Cardinals, Mariners, and then you finally, the Mariners are actually the first playoff contender, I would say. They're 6-3. Making $473, but then the Rays are 6-3, but only making $130 because they are a 157 average favorite. And then we come to the Red Sox, and the Yankees is another great example. The Yankees are 5-3 since the All-Star break. They've made only $265 in those games, but actually that's a positive. They've made $265 because they were a dog in most of those games. So that's kudos for them. But we get down to the Rangers. I'm not even going to talk about them. That team has folded big time based on the manager's poor timing of his statement that his team is not playing hard and da-da-da-da-da. So the Rangers may not win the rest of the year. But seriously, the Blue Jays are the team that really is surprising here. And this is the game we're going to talk about. They're 1-5. After the All-Star break, averaging a -141 favorite. They've lost their $100 bettors, 520 smackers in just 6 games. But I would think, looking at that they're a team that maybe have played themselves out of the out of the contention for the AL East, but they're still a very, very good team. And they are playing, let's take a look at the standings here quick, Adam, and then I'll turn it over to you. They're fourth place in the American League East, 49-47, 2 games over 500, 10.5 games behind Boston, 4.5 in the wild card race. But they also have to chase the Yankees and a few other teams that are right there as well. So playing all those teams that are ahead of them in that division is going to make it pretty hard for Toronto to creep further into the possibility of securing a wild card berth. But they are playing the Boston Red Sox tonight, so no better time than the present to start a winning streak than against a division rival. So how do you see this game, Adam, and where are you taking it?
All right, John. So, I mean, anyone that's watched us week in and week out knows I'm high on the Blue Jays, and they swept the Rangers out of the All-Star break. So they're 1-5 in their last 6, but they did come out of the break and had probably as impressive of a weekend as anyone out of the break. They scored, I want to say offhand, maybe 27 runs in like 3 games, and they hammered the Rangers, which, as you mentioned, is probably not really that impressive at this point. They're kind of losing to everyone. But yeah, a little bit frustrating since they lost back-to-back to the Red Sox. They lost 2 of 3 over the weekend to the Mets, and then they lost last night. They lost with a lead. They blew it and lost to the Red Sox last night. So, I still think this Blue Jays team, and I know I've said this all year, I think they're better than what their record is right now and what they've shown. And if you go back and look, this is like the spot they tend to win, where they've lost a couple games. Now they're only a game or 2 above 500. It feels like they're going to start to creep out of it, and then they tend to get a win. And I actually think this is a pretty good spot for the Blue Jays to win tonight. The price of minus 135 on the road at Fenway is certainly not ideal, and that might be the reason that it doesn't make my final card. But the only way I would play this game here would be to back the Blue Jays. The pitching matchup is actually a rematch of a pitching matchup we saw last week in Buffalo. Toronto, and that's another thing. Toronto is going to be going back to Toronto at the end of this week, I believe. So the rest of their home games are going to be in Toronto, and that should be a nice boost for them, I would think, because they're going to get some really great crowds there. They've been in, they started the season playing in Tampa. Recently, they've been playing in Buffalo. Last week in Buffalo, the Red Sox won on the road, and they beat Robbie Ray, and it was probably one of Garrett Richards' better starts of the season. Even with that start, Garrett Richards, he's still got a 4.99 ERA, but just a god-awful 1.63 whip. That is a terrible mark for a starting pitcher, a 1.63 whip. And now you're getting a Blue Jays lineup, which has, they're still a top 5 lineup in this league. Even if they have underachieved a little bit, they're still a top 5 lineup in this league, and they're going to get a second look at Garrett Richards here within about a 6-day span. And then you got Robbie Ray on the mound for the Blue Jays, who did get knocked around a little bit by the Red Sox, but he's a veteran. He's someone that I would expect to make an adjustment off of what went wrong last week. And he's got some really nice numbers, 3.12 ERA, 142 strikeouts, and his whip is 1.05. So Robbie Ray, he's always someone I thought would be really dominant in the big leagues as a front-end starter. I know we haven't seen it his whole career. I think it's more of a mental game than a physical one with him, where he just becomes sort of a head case on the mound sometimes. But he's got really good stuff. I think he probably makes the adjustment here to hold down this Red Sox lineup a little bit. And the Blue Jays, it just feels like a spot where they could break out. I was at the Mets-Jays game on Friday. They hit a bunch of balls hard in that game and got shut out. And I would say that plagued them a little bit over the weekend. So we might just see some variance here where some of those hard hit balls start to fall into play. And if that happens against Garrett Richards with the way he puts guys on base, you're going to see a couple crooked numbers from the Blue Jays, and it should put them in a good position to win here. So I haven't played it yet. It's not a best bet yet, but I'm certainly leaning toward Blue Jays. And the only thing, I will say this, the only thing that would sort of keep me off this from making it like a 4 or 5-unit play is probably the fact that I would have to lay minus 135 on the road. But I still think the Blue Jays are a good bet, and this is a spot that they have seemed to win in all year.
I like it a lot, Adam. I really do. I think this is a good spot for Toronto, especially coming out of the gate 1-5 since the All-Star break. So there's got to be a little bit of value there. Taking them tonight at Fenway, and Boston is a good team, but they're not going to win every game.
Right.
And like I said, the situation here, you broke it down really well, and I'm convinced that is the right side. So
yeah, I think the odds makers have to be telling you something here. So if you go back to last week, the rain ruined my fade of Garrett Richards because I wanted to go against him when the Jays had a bullpen game, and I was getting a really reasonable price. The next day, the only reason I didn't bet the Jays last week in this same matchup, Robbie Ray versus Garrett Richards, is the books had him they had Ray minus 220 at home. Well, at home, it was in Buffalo, for the Jays there against the Red Sox. Now, of course, the Jays lost that game, but you don't see many guys minus 135 at Fenway when the Red Sox are playing as well as they are. So I definitely think the odds makers might be trying to tell you something with that line, that they definitely are pro Blue Jays in this spot. But again, it is tough to lay minus 135 on Fenway. I'll have to sit on that one for another hour or two, and maybe we might get some Red Sox buyback that knocks that down a little bit.
Sure.
If it went down into the minus 120, minus 125 range, I would be more likely to come on for a multi-unit play.
And looking at the sportsmemo.com/odds page, we have a price. Well, the opening was minus 125 for Toronto. It's now inched up to 128. Pinnacle, which is the one I always like, is minus 129. 73% of the tickets are on Boston.
Yeah.
And that's a sign right there, folks, that if that trend continues and the betting public is on Boston, and you're seeing more money being bet on Toronto by looking at this page at sportsmemo.com, you're definitely going to have even more confidence than we have right now with Toronto. Yeah,
there's no question the Blue Jays are on my short list so far. That's one of a couple games I'm considering for today. I've been pretty selective of late. It's been working. But yeah, I'm going to kind of see what goes on with that over the next couple hours. But I'll tell you this: I wouldn't bet the Red Sox. So if you're going to make a bet on this game, I think the only way to bet it would be to lay the juice and back the far superior pitcher in Robbie Ray in this spot.
And like you, I'm going to do a little bit more research on the total because I'm seeing 11 creeping up here with VIG minus 120, 11 under right now at William Hill. And even Penny's at 11 under minus 106, but who's to say this can't get to 11.5 by the afternoon?
Yeah, that might be a good, it also could be a good spot depending on how the books price it. They'll always shade one of the team totals one way and give you a little bit of a discount on the other. I haven't looked at what the team total is here yet, but I could see Blue Jays team total being in play here because I really think they're gonna do something off Garrett Richards. He's just been horrible all year, and the fact that this lineup gets to see him a second time within a week, a huge advantage for the Blue Jays. Massive advantage for the Blue Jays right there.
Especially with that lineup, no doubt about it. The team total right now, Toronto is 5.5 under minus 120. Boston 4.5 over minus really 127 at Penny now, 132 at Bet Online, 130 consensus. So there you go,
John. They're giving you the discount on the Red Sox, basically.
Yep.
So which tells me that the books are bracing. They think Toronto is live here. That's what that tells me. The odds makers are definitely seeing the Blue Jays as a really good spot tonight, whether it be because they're going to price the team total like that. And I would almost just take, if you want to get involved with a total, take the plus money on the Blue Jays team total. That's probably the best way to play it because chances are if they need, if they're going to hit that's a pretty big number for the game total. You're probably going to need 5 or 6 runs for the Blue Jays to get there, and plus money in that spot is pretty appealing. So that would be how I would look at the total.
5.5 over is actually going towards -110 now, which isn't a big deal. But I mean, if that line goes to if the total goes to 11 or 11.5, it's already at 11 at some place. But if it goes to 11.5, then I think you're going to see that over number probably become more vig.
Yeah,
and probably more vig by Boston, because the public is going to look at this and say, my goodness gracious, Boston, they can easily score 4.5 runs against anybody.
I would say this is probably going to be one of the most popular, I would say one of the most public sort of popular bets on the board today is going to be over in this game. That would be my guess.
Yep.
I'm not going to have a play on the total, but I would guess that the over in this game is going to be a very popular bet today.
I agree 100%. Great job there, Adam. And another thing I wanted to mention, too, and we talked about this on Manny's Irish Pub Show, which airs 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Like the NBA was during the regular season, you really want to be careful about putting in bets, especially if you like putting in bets for overnight purposes to try to gain a line movement advantage. Because with the trading deadline now just a few days away, that pressure cooker is going to really heat up. And you don't want to get yourself in a situation where you're involved with a game where all of a sudden, Chris Bryant gets pulled from the lineup or worse yet, gets pulled from the game in the third inning because he's been traded. And I'm not saying I'm predicting that he's going to get traded, but you really, really have to be careful. And after all, it's your money that you're betting, and you don't want to get in that situation where it's bad. And nobody can predict what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. But something will happen, right, Adam? Something is going to happen.
It's going to happen, and I would say, you're going to want to be careful backing pitchers that might get traded, because how many times I can recall off the top of my head a number of times where a guy let's say Kyle Hendricks, I know he just pitched, but let's say someone like that makes a start and finds out an inning in that they're traded. I mean, they're not going to leave him out there. They're going to take him out, and all of a sudden you're going to have a bullpen game, and you probably paid a premium to bet that guy. So it's a really good point, John. I would definitely, over the next 4 days, it's definitely something to take into consideration when you're handicapping. Does this team have a bunch of guys that might move, because they'll yank them right out of the lineup. They don't. That's how it works. It's the second that they're no longer a property of that team, they're off the field. It never fails. So,
and even if a deal is close to being done, they're going to pull them off the field, because you don't want the player getting hurt and then the trade not happening.
Of course,
that's the other unknown.
Yeah, but, I want to make one more point, and it just kind of goes back to what you were saying about, some of these quote-unquote bad teams are playing really well out of the All-Star break. There's a couple reasons for that. One, a lot of the bad teams don't have as many All-Stars as a lot of the good teams. So you've got, guys, most of the Orioles and the Royals and whatnot were home on, just taking a few days off, while some of these other teams had 4 or 5 All-Stars there. But more so, and I think this ties into what's going to happen around the trade deadline. Just because a team unloads, let's say the Cubs unload everyone and they go into rebuild mode, that doesn't make them a fade, okay? You've seen it a lot years past. Sometimes it's a matter of, because what's going to happen is, if let's say the Cubs trade everyone, and all of a sudden they've got a lineup that looks nothing like the lineup that you expected them to have. They're going to be way undervalued, and you're going to see some good prices on them. But it's also going to be guys that are probably fighting for jobs in the big leagues. It's not going to be, superstars that are accustomed to making the playoffs and disenchanted with the fact that they're not and the team isn't that great. You're probably going to have a number of guys that are just happy to be in the big leagues or really trying to fight for a spot on the team next year. And those types of teams, the Padres of 3 or 4 years ago come to mind, where they were terrible they traded everyone, and they actually played pretty good in August and September because it ended up being a bunch of guys that just were wanted to be there and were fighting for a chance to stay in the league. So you'll see that a little bit in August and September, and you can definitely exploit that and make money because there's going to be sort of consensus fades, like even the Rangers to an extent. Now that's a different situation. If they've got like some clubhouse, the clubhouse doesn't have a great, vibe and whatnot, you could see a pretty big disaster from them down the stretch. But if a team looks like they're in it, just because they're way out of it, like the Royals is a good example right now. I don't know that they're going to be able to battle their way back into contention, but they certainly look like, they're into it. And that's a team that they could potentially, could be a pretty good team next year if they get some of the right pieces. So just because teams are out of it in August and September does not make them, bad bets. And actually, there's probably a couple that'll make you a lot of money. So it's a good thing to look at.
Absolutely. Well spoken, Adam. Let's move on to the NFL here. And we're getting closer and closer with each passing day. I know that's ridiculous to say with each passing day, but I can't wait. It is truly the sports betting. It is kind of my niche with college and NFL year after year. But we're here to talk about the NFC East and the prospects for the Washington football team. And the odds right now, I'm looking at DraftKings for this purpose. Division winner, Dallas Cowboys plus 135 are the favorite. Washington football team is next at 2-1. New York Giants plus 450. And the Philadelphia Eagles at plus 550. And I might add that the Eagles are tied with, I believe it is, no, it's not even Jacksonville. They're tied with another team for the fewest wins total line available right now at 6 or 6.5, depending on what book you're looking at. So not much is expected out of Philadelphia this year. But Adam, before we went on the air, I know you like Washington here in this situation, and I'm anxious to hear why.
Yeah, no, I like the football team. It would be nice if they got a mascot so we didn't have to keep saying football team. But anyway, I love it. I thought that would be handled by now, but they had a good season as a football team last year, so maybe they want to run it back one more. But listen, this team, their defense is incredible. They were in a playoff game with the eventual Super Bowl champs with Taylor Heineke at quarterback, and now you're bringing in a veteran, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's shown he can win games. I mean, I don't know if he's going to win you a Lombardi trophy, but he can definitely win games. And this defense is good enough where I think if they've got someone that is capable of running an offense and can just, not as long as the Washington offense isn't killing them, I really think they're going to be in a lot of games this year. And from a NFC East perspective, I'm going to throw out the Eagles and the Giants. I just don't think either of those teams are. I know the Giants were in the mix until the last week of the season last year, but the Eagles took a step back, in my opinion, from last year to this year. I don't have a ton of faith in the Giants. I think the only reason they were in anything is because of how bad the division was. Obviously, I think that's pretty obvious when you look at what the records were going into that final week of the season. Dallas is probably going to be better, but I think that the if we're talking about picking a division winner and getting the best bang for your buck, the Washington team at plus 200 seems to be the way to go here. I think if the odds makers really liked the Cowboys, they would have had them like minus 110. That's just my feel. I think they're hanging that plus 135 up there to attract Cowboys money because I think Washington's a more complete team right now, whereas the Cowboys probably have more potential to be great going forward if they can address certain needs. But if the Washington offense can work out with Fitzpatrick and they can be productive, and I'm not even saying like a top offense, but they can be productive, I really think the Washington defense led by Chase Young and some of the other guys that they have up and down that defense, I mean, that might be, and that's probably a top could be a top 5 defense. I mean, they were right up there last
Sure.
year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that would be how I would play this. I already think I'll probably be on Washington in their week 1 matchup, and yeah, plus 200 to win the division when I'm pretty much willing to throw out the Eagles and the Giants. Plus 200 seems like a great bet.
I think it is too. At DraftKings, this will be. I know we're running out of time here, but I want to ask one more question, or at least work this through. You can bet on the division finishing position at DraftKings, and this team prop for Washington football team, and I agree, we need a mascot, and we need a mascot very quickly. And along those lines, Adam, not to get off the rails here, but I'm interested to see what the Cleveland Guardian mascot is going to look like, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But Washington football team plus 200 to win, as we said. Then second place is plus 200 also. Third is plus 275. Fourth is plus 400. So obviously the market is telling us that they are going to finish first or second in the division. And I'm wondering off the top of my head here, I'm pretty good with numbers, whether making a bet on both of those, if you like futures bets, taking Washington to place first, 2-1, or second. So you do pizza money on both of those prop bets at 2-1 odds. Now,
yeah, and you're basically getting even money on a first or second place finish, pretty much. That would have.
Yeah, you would be. Because the one would lose. So if you did, $50, you would make 100, lose 50 on the other. So you double.
Yeah, I mean, if you're okay tying some money up for a little bit, like that's a great way to bet it. If you have that offered and you can sort of lock in even money on a first or second place finish for Washington football team, I just don't see the Eagles or the Giants both sort of like, making like a huge move, like surge toward the front of this division. So maybe you get one of them that's in the mix. I don't think there's a given that the Cowboys are just going to be really good. I mean, the Cowboys could finish third in this division. There's no, I don't think that it's like just a given that they're going to be awesome this year. So yeah, I would say Washington, that's a great idea, John. That's a great way to bet it. If you can, especially if you're willing to invest a little more and you're not just looking to hit a price, take first and second if your book offers it, and just, Redskins or Washington football team at even money to finish first or second seems like a great bet. I really think they're going to be like one of the sort of big surprises in the NFL this year. They've got the defense. They have enough pieces. I think they could be really, really good.
Yeah, and top two, you can actually say the two exact teams as well. So Dallas and Washington to be 1-2 in either order is plus 140. I don't like that, but what I want to conclude here with is to make the playoffs. So we have this one that looks pretty good, essentially even money to come in first or second. If they make the playoffs, it's plus 110. So it's almost better to make the playoffs, because I would think that if Washington is going to be a surprise team, they're either going to win it or they're going to come in second, and I think they will come in second behind Dallas. There are two teams that should bounce back from that dreadful display and performances that we saw last year that was called football and play a whole lot better. And I like your breakdown of this. So yeah. I think it's one or the other, and they're both pretty even. At plus 110, you make an extra $5, but
okay, I'll throw this in there. I think I would play it even money to finish first or second, because it's still a weaker division in my opinion. Like if you look at the NFC West with like the Cardinals, the Rams, the 49ers, like theoretically, I mean, you could have, the Seahawks. We can't even throw out the Seahawks, who are still just always good. They always find a way to be good. So you could have teams in there that, like, you might get 3 teams out of that division, or it's possible at least. And you go to the NFC South with the defending Super Bowl champions, and maybe like it's like the Falcons every year. They come in, they're supposed to be good, then they're terrible. One of these years they're going to have a pretty good team. You still have the Saints in there. So I think the way I would play this, if it's that close, even though I do think the NFC East takes a step forward from where they were last year, comparatively, they could still be down in comparison to the other divisions. So I think I would rather have to just finish first or second in the NFC East, because it's still possible that the second place NFC East team does not make the playoffs. So I think if it's just the difference between plus 110 or even money, I think I'm just taking the even money to finish first or second, because I'll tell you what, if you're finishing third in the NFC East this year, you're probably nowhere near the playoff picture. That would be my sort of guess.
I would think that's a certainty, if there is such a thing. But wins total for the football team is 8.5, so that would put them at 9-7. At least 10-6 is probably more.
Now, do we get
thinking.
the extra game this year? Isn't this the first year of the extra?
Oh, wait,
game?
Yeah, I forgot to add that in. So 8.5 would be 9
and 8. Oh, that's weird. John, I don't like change. Okay,
I mean, it is. It's like
it's gonna take me a long time to get used to this 17 game season.
You know, yeah, it will me too.
I want the baseball changes gone still too. I can't stand the 7-inning doubleheaders. I can't stand the runner on second base. I'm not a change guy. I like things the way they've always been. So,
and with that said, Madison Bumgarner pitched a no-hitter, and I don't care if it was 7 innings. It was scheduled to be 7 innings. It wasn't because of weather. He should be credited with a no-hitter.
I know.
It is bullcrap.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, make sure, and gals out there, make sure you get Adam's special here. Sportsmemo is doing a special deal using the promo code, what is it? Top 199. So top is in Top Flight Sports, TOP 199. You can get every single one of his plays and every single one of his sports. He mentions that he does KBO, so there's going to be multiple sports that he's going to be releasing.
Preseason football, so I will have
3
weeks of football content in August. I love preseason football. I will be very active as I am every year, and I've done extremely well in years past in preseason football. So I can't wait for it.
So make sure you get over to sportsmemo.com using sm.buzz/TPS, which
TFS.
is TFS, right? Exactly as it's written in the scrolling thing there. And take advantage of this deal. And I have a little deal going as well. It's $99 for Major League Baseball only between now and the end of August. Obviously, I'm running pretty hot. This is probably a pretty good time to take advantage of that too. So make sure you get both of our deals right now. Don't wait, and get on board and have both of us start working for you tonight. So Adam, with that said, I appreciate your time being on the show. I look forward to next Tuesday when we get to do this again. So best of luck to you. And on behalf of Adam, myself, WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, and this Predictive Playbook channel, may all the wins be yours.